trying to find just the right place to film each day, and it's quite difficult, what with other tourists and my mother, etc., which you saw in the video before. So today we woke up and it was pouring, and of course today was the day that we had a tour booked on a boat. So we were a little nervous, but not discouraged. First we went off to the spice bazaar, and we were chatting with the guide, and he was telling us, oh, it's just somewhere tourists go, everything's overpriced, everything, like the quality is not as good, but it was very, very beautiful. They have these beautiful lamps, they're gorgeous. I wish we could bring some home, but I just don't think they travel well. There's tons and tons of spices, and they're all piled beautifully. There's pistachios, there's candy, like Turkish delight, tons and tons and tons and tons of different things, and everyone's like, oh, hello, hello, come look at my shop. It was so bright and so colorful. It was lovely. After that, we had a little bit more time before we had to go to the boat. Usually the tour has, 8 people on it, but it turned out it was just my mother and I that had booked, so yay for us. We passed by a graveyard, and the guide told us that graveyards are always like in the hearts of cities, or often in the hearts of cities, or near where people go to pray, so that they're reminded that they're mortal, that one day they too will be dead. And they're also supposed to treat it sort of like they're guests here on earth, so to treat it with respect. This graveyard was surrounding where a sultan and his family was buried. It's very, very pretty. We didn't go inside, it cost money to go inside, but we kind of peeked from the door and looked at the graves. After that, we checked out a mosque that was right beside there. There are tons of mosques here. There's one, like, I don't know, there may be a football field apart, it seems. And some of them are big, some of them are small, all different shapes, sizes, and colors. So I found out why the women are separated when they go there to pray. It's because the women would be distracting, and they don't want anyone to distract from them being there to worship God. So even back in the day when the sultan would come in through a different door, and he would pray up higher behind these like gates or these windows, so that no one below would be thinking, oh, the sultan's here. This way they can just focus on Allah. After that, we got to the boat, and we went to the top of the boat for the first little bit. It was a lot quieter up there, however, it was open air. Like, there was a roof, but then most of it was open, and since it was raining, it was kind of cold and it was windy, but we got a lot better pictures from up there. First we went along the European side. We saw like the conquest of Europe, which looks like a castle. It was so beautiful. We passed many mosques. We also passed under the Bosphorus bridge. That's one of the 2 main bridges there. Apparently it gets very trafficky around rush hour because a lot of people work on the European side, but then it's more residential on the Oriental side. We also passed this insane hotel. Apparently it's $2,400 a night. Can you imagine spending that much? So it's somewhere apparently where presidents from other countries would come to. I definitely couldn't afford that. So then we turned and ended up on the Oriental side, and it was neat to see the different style of architecture. There are similarities for sure, and color scheme and whatnot, but the architecture is very, very different. On that side, there's also the Sultan's Summer Palace. Apparently on that side of the river it's cooler, so the Sultan would go there in the summer so that he would be more comfortable. After the boat trip, we walked to the Dolmabahce Palace, and it's gorgeous. Oh my gosh, it was huge, first of all, as many palaces are. And it was influenced a lot more by European architecture on the inside and European decorations. There was tons of gold gilding. There was also huge chandeliers made of English crystal. Some of the biggest chandeliers that I've ever seen. We weren't allowed to take pictures. Here's a picture I stole off the internet to show you one of the bigger chandeliers. So they have one chandelier that's a ton. They have another chandelier that's 1.5 tons, and then their crown jewel type of chandelier is 4.5 tons. It's huge. They had to bring it over in different pieces and assemble it there. Oh, it made me nervous just thinking of people who had to assemble it. It would be so nerve-wracking to have to do that. But it was beautiful. There was high roofs with domes on them, so the rooms just seemed so vast. They also had huge carpets, biggest I've ever seen. And they even had a staircase that each of the rungs along underneath of the railing were also made with English crystal. So much money was put into this, making this palace. So they showed us the one side of the palace, which is where the Sultan could entertain. And then there's another separate one where it was basically forbidden to go, except for the women of the palace, his sort of concubines, I guess. That side of the palace is called the harem. The outside of it was gorgeous. Here are a couple pictures. And the grounds are beautiful. There were tons of fountains and ponds, which apparently bonefish lived in. and they had these amazing magnolia trees. They were huge, huge, huge. I would love to see them in the summertime when they were blooming. It must be breathtaking. Side note, as we were walking around, we also saw the telephone booths, and they're so cool. Look at this, they're like little globes that you go in, so I guess you have a little bit of privacy. It's so neat to see how telephone booths are different all over the world. Then we drove up this huge, huge, huge hill on the Oriental Side, and we went to have lunch at this restaurant. I'm just going to show you the name typed because there's no way that I can say it. It was yummy, yummy. We had a salad with lots of fresh vegetables. We had lentil soup, which was delicious, put a bit of lemon in it and some chili flakes. Then we also had some chicken with rice and these like potato cut fries, as well as roasted tomato, roasted green pepper. Although my mom ended up getting a hot pepper and she's a big wimp when it comes to spice, so it was pretty funny all at the same time, kind of sad for her. So after that we walked outside, and there's a beautiful view because it is on such a large hill. If you look to the right, you see the European side, and if you look to the left, you see the Oriental side. And in the middle, there's this large area that's all cobblestoned, and there's tons of benches. So you can come there, hang out with friends, look at the beautiful view. And there were animals everywhere. Again, there were cats and dogs all over the place, and crows as well. So the cats are watching the crows, and the dogs and the cats are begging for food. It was weird. Usually you think, you know, of like an old woman feeding the pigeons, and people were feeding the pigeons, and then you see the pigeons, and right beside them there's a dog also getting fed. And it was just funny to see that turned around. There were some fun toilets there. It reminded me of when I was in China. After that we went to the Golden Horn to look at the beautiful view. And the Golden Horn, there's tons and tons and tons of graves all around it. It's a huge, 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 huge graveyard that's stretched on and on. Pierre Loti's house is also up there. He's a famous writer that came to Turkey and fell in love with a Turkish woman. So you can see his house, you can go there and you can have Turkish tea or coffee, and then you can see all the graves, and there's just so many. I don't even know how you would get to some of them because they're just hills and hills of them. And then we took a gondola trip on the way back down, which was kind of neat as well. Our trip was almost over, and our guide was very kind and showed me where to buy the apple cider mix for a good price, and as the real apple cider, because apparently at a lot of the tourist ones it's like rip-off stuff, which isn't surprising. We went to the Hippodrome, which is where they used to have the gladiators and the chariot races while they were here, and there's two obelisks there. There's one that used to be covered in gold. All the gold was removed at one point by the peasants to make coins out of them because they got so poor. So it's all falling apart, it looks like. And then there's another obelisk which matches the one that's in Paris. So that was really neat. There is a third one apparently, but it's been lost, so who knows where that one is. And that's what we did today as our tour. Later on, I believe we're going to the pudding shop to have dinner. So hopefully it will be delicious as all the other places that we have eaten have been. And that's about it for day 3. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.